Alright, y'all, running it back with another replay. Had another one. I'm gonna upload it still, but just, had some really funky audio in my last recording. I realized it was because of my audio equalizer, which I use to protect my eardrums in other much louder, more intense games. So, I turned that down, because Warhammer doesn't really need it, you know, unless you're getting really close to, like, you know, Giselles and cannons being fired. But, you know, you're probably not doing that in the heat of the battle anyways. So, got decibel levels down to a much more manageable level so I can hear myself and you guys can actually hear me. Anyways, we're going to jump in this one. This is a great match. I had a lot of fun playing this game, and it was really well played by my opponent, but this battle does really showcase how overpowered vampire counts are. If you've watched any of Turin's like tournaments or, you know, Platypus's tournaments and stuff, you have seen just how ridiculously powerful vampire counts are in all matchups right now. These guys are just ridiculous. But anyways, I'm gonna be going for pretty standard. Well, I say pretty standard. I brought the Red Duke. I don't see the Red Duke brought much, but I really like him. I think he might actually be dark horse for best vampire count lord personally. And when they get nerfed, which I imagine they probably will, he's probably still gonna be fantastic. He might be the best one at that point. Anyways, double Necromancer for the Forbidden Rot. Immediately pop that on battle start. Just go ahead and do it. Get my Sternsmen and other Graveguard and Crypt Horrors. They're going to hide out in this until I know what kind of range my opponent had. Because, you know, I didn't want to get karate chopped by cannons right off the bat. But Crypt Horrors out here on the side to hide and jump on this objective. They're a pretty nice unit. Just bring one in your starting army to be invisible and force your opponent to guess whether there's one or multiple. Pretty valuable. Lots of zombies. The Tithe over here. 2 Skeleton Spearmen, which I think are a little underrated. They're pretty decent to bring. They can kind of get in here and poke cavalry and stuff, and they're pretty good against Cathay cavalry in general, who are not very high DPS. Anyways, gonna get this battle moving. Jeez, okay. Skyjunk here. Skyjunk you should not bring in this matchup. Kind of a bad move by my opponent. If you're gonna bring any artillery, just bring like a cannon, you know, to shoot at crypt horrors and stuff, because that's what your vampire count opponent's gonna be bringing 9 times out of 10. And you can see the fire rain rocket doesn't have the output necessary to really clear out all of these units. I mean, just a complete miss, actually, in that first volley. But, yeah, my opponent brought the Righteous Lances of Wage in to try and protect, which is a good idea in theory, but Fellbats are so numerous that it's going to be impossible to keep them on top of this guy forever, and they're going to get tied up at some point. And even if you are able to fight off all the Fellbats with the Righteous Lances, that's just kind of a waste for a 1600 gold unit. The Shugengan Lord flying around with them, you know, providing a little bit of, you know, buff potential for them, and, you know, trying to help them out a bit. But, you know, I guess my opponent's thought was park this above and get all of these guys harmony, which he does do, and it makes this center fight a lot more tricky than I thought it would be. Anyways, over here on the side, my opponent just dives immediately on these crypt ghouls, which, not the best idea in the world. I bring Fellbats, jump on them. These Fellbats are going to just chew that Skyjunk to pieces. And, yeah, here comes the Red Duke. He's going to be getting over here, and he's going to be trying to, you know, save this position, because it's not looking too hot right now for these crypt ghouls. But immediately jumping in here, dropping a zombie summon, Ancestral Warriors in return, the Dire Pack, and more Fellbats jumping in here. These guys I probably should have brought over the top and gotten around the back. But by this point, these guys were pretty stuck in, and my opponent seemed to be pretty content to sit here and do the fight. And you can see the damage that the Red Duke can put down, and El Sif getting popped on the Shugengan Lord is not good for this poor, you know, hybrid combat caster. I'm trying to push through and get the Red Duke on top of her to really put pressure on her, but can't quite get there. El Sif wears off pretty quickly. But anyways, this fight turning into just a giant blob fest. You know, I'm lucky my opponent didn't really bring anything too dangerous. He should have dropped the Storm of the Night here, because that would have cleared out all these chaff and let Ancestral Warriors really grind against the Red Duke. And the Righteous Lances too. I'm not sure why he did it, because you'll see later how he does use it. Direwolves stopping up the Dune Dragons here. I've got my frontline grinding. You can see these Jade Warriors with the Harmony just tear through zombies without taking any damage. But now I've got my Graveyard in here. They're going to be able to do some good damage. With Crypt Horror support, tearing these guys up. These guys don't have the Harmony. They're not getting those benefits, which is just not good news for my opponent. And they're getting stomped on by these zombies and Crypt Horrors. Bad day for them. Stearnsmen over here on the flank, they're going to take a nasty charge. Got Direwolves posturing up to dive on the Crane Gunners. Good response from my opponent to get these Jade Lancers in here, but I see it just in time, and I'm able to dodge out and around. And as fast as these guys are, and they're decent peel, they're just not quick enough to stop these Direwolves from getting past them, and I'm just forcing them through to jump onto this position. Over here, you can see the blob fight still going. The Dune Dragons killed off these Direwolves pretty quick. Took only a little bit of damage. Good for them. But Crane Gunners, dead in the back here. They were shooting these Crypt Horrors who got really low, but now you can see a lot of damage going in.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Dead zombies in the front there. Forbidden Rods going in the back here. Another cast went down. More Winds of Magic. Vampire counts can always use it, and this lore is just getting crushed, you know? I mean, finally I managed to get the Red Duke on top of her, and now she's routing, and I'm going to pop an Invocation, trying to keep the Red Duke alive as well, and that's what makes him such a good duelist. El Sif, such a good debuff, and with being able to just heal yourself whenever you feel like it, really makes it difficult to be dealt with effectively, even by dedicated dueling lords, because you can just run away at that point and keep them away. It's really good. I bring some Blood Knights out. I was able to bank up good resources, and I really wanted something that was going to be able to punish these really tattered Longmire Riders if they landed somewhere again, and to also deal with these Jade Lancers that my opponent's summoning out, because he's brought out 3 units already, you know. I mean, one got real beat up by these Stearnsmen, who are now on the back of these Peasant Lances. That's not a good time for them. You can see they're routing now. But my opponent coming in with a rear charge on the Stearnsmen, which still just does not do enough damage to these guys. These guys just regenerate for forever, you know, and you can just get a couple heals on them, and they're going to be doing work all day.
One of your units has been destroyed.
I'm giving up on the side position. I really accomplished what I needed to do because this Lord is dead now, or routed off the side. I can't remember which. And the Righteous Lances are pretty much dead at this point. They just come in here and they do free up the Sky Junk in a second here, which is good for my opponent. But again, like I said, you know, I'm just going to keep bringing out units. I get 2 zombies to go over here to the side point and send the Blood Knights to support them against any potential enemies, particularly these Jade Lancers, who my opponent is really throwing away, trying to plink down the Stearnsmen, who are just such a tough unit. They're not gonna get taken out by those guys. And while I was going up here at first to take the objective with the Blood Knights and protect these zombies, I'm committed to really just killing off these cavalry. And this is the perfect kind of environment for Blood Knights. I mean, this is the kind of unit they want to fight. I mean, a pretty weak cavalry unit by all regards, and these guys' anti-large here is going to be enough DPS against these armored units to be able to poke through them without taking too many casualties. Red Duke getting in here with the last few Fellbats. My opponent just decided to give up on the Sky Junk because it started routing as he was killing in this last Fellbat unit. It's a wash for him there. again, don't bring the sky junk. It's going to get shut down too easily. Just bring cannons or something else. Bring Jade Warrior crossbows, honestly. Like here, if you had a bunch of these guys, it would have been a lot harder for me to deal with. Blood Knights back here. Another unit of Jade Lancers, and my Blood Knights are just going to have an absolutely just a whale of a time dealing with these guys, you know.
One of your units
this is exactly what they want to be on. My opponent trying to pull his Jade Warrior crossbowman back, but I'm committing with the Sternsman. These guys are just going balls to the wall, going all the way in against my opponent here. And, you know, that's perfect for them. They're just such a tanky unit. They're going to love that. Flying over here, Foe Seeker going down. Just wanted to get some good vigor regeneration on this guy. The longer you can keep him at a good, you know, like active vigor stance, I guess, the better he is in combat. He is a good anti-character lord, which is going to be important now because my opponent's brought back the Shugengan Lord, which I don't see just yet. I commit the Red Duke down here to, you know, kill off these Jade Lancers, which is going to be really nice because, you know, they're getting pretty low on morale, and just one good charge in the rear is going to be enough to break them in a second here if I can get it off right. A really good Talons of the Night or Storm of the Night. I think it's Talons. I'm not sure which. I don't remember exactly, but really takes out these Black Knights down pretty low and kills some zombies and does some good damage to Cryptars. You can see here, it's getting a little precarious for me, honestly. I pull out the Blood Knights from this position because my opponent was really committing more and more stuff in here. I'm going to leave the Sternsmen, though, because these guys are in fights that they really want to be in. Cathay doesn't have any good... other than the Dune Dragons are all the way over here. They don't really have any DPS anti-armor units, you know? And the Graveguard are just going to sit back here happy as clams all day doing work. And again, my opponent lets the Shugengan Lord get caught. You really just can't let that happen. He tried desummoning the Lord, but Red Duke got in here quick again. You can see just the DPS that goes down so quickly. I mean, El Sif was popped once, and this Lord's pretty much dead, you know? I mean, just able to chase forever. Foe Seeker popped again. If you keep popping Foe Seeker, it's basically perfect vigor, you know, and that's just a beautiful thing. But a great play by my opponent, bringing these Iron Hails in at the last second to get some good damage on the Red Duke, I'm still committing to the chase. I want to get this Lord off again. I don't want any more Talons in the Night coming down, because it will just clear out all of my chaff here. You can see, I only just now equalized the point totals here. The victory ticket lead has become mine. That's because I'm really dedicating to holding this center objective and finally capturing the high ground. And my opponent's just not really been playing that. He's been trying to value trade as best as he can. But it's so difficult against vampire counts because I can just summon so many cost-effective units. Especially stuff like the Dire Pack and the Sternsman. These guys are a nightmare for Grand Cathay. Cathay just does not have a good matchup against these guys. Because they can just run around for days. And you can see if you don't have something dedicated to kill them, they're just a nuisance. Zombies coming down here to try and force these guys to reposition and give me time to kill this Shugengan Lord. He's finally doing what he needed to do from the beginning, which is just dodging back and forth, trying to stay away from the Red Duke. And it's going well. I'm forced to pull back. I drop a heal on these Sternsmen, and even by this point, I summon in the double Necromancer again for more Forbidden Rod uses. And it's just silly because I had like 50 Winds of Magic at this point, and I'd been casting big heals and spells all game. Another beautiful Talons of the Night here, just wrecking my infantry. Oh my goodness. Konigstein Stalkers just got here and they're already almost dead. Another Black Knight comes out to try and do damage, and these Blood Knights are still alive. They've been a terror for my opponent's battlefield control elements. You know, now he's got his Jade Lancers in here again, trying desperately to kill off or block up these zombies from getting on top of the Iron Hails, and the Grave Guard, the Stearnsmen, are, you know, picking through them as best as possible. Skyjunk comes out again, not a particularly great play at this point in the game. I guess my opponent really wanted to be trying to deal with all of these units that I had on the field, but Skyjunk's not really the way to go about that. So I just put some Fellbats on it, and they're going to be there all game, basically. Again, replay of earlier. Stearnsman, grinding. Battlefield's pretty much under control at this point, you know, and my opponent's at a really bad disadvantage by now. Crypt Ghouls on the side, 2 Black Knights here, Blood Knights that are pretty much full health again over here. Peasant Long Spears, dying to the Dire Pack, who are, as I said earlier, a fabulous unit. They can kill these guys real easy, just like any other Hound unit can. Do it more effectively with their better stats. And then they can also go fisticuffs with Peasant Horsemen and Jade Lancers. They do good damage against Jade Lancers, actually, which I found out a little bit in this game. So just kill off this unit, gonna pull back, try and get some heals on them. Gonna make a big blob, I think, here. Drop a big multi-use heal. Accidentally, or not accidentally, I deliberately brought this Mortis engine into the middle because I knew my opponent would have to fully commit to this blob fight in the middle if he were going to be able to get anywhere, but he's still struggling to remove these guys from his backfield. They're finally tattered and at their healing cap, so I'm just leaving them here just to take all this damage and just to, you know, put the last bit of pressure on my opponent that I need.
One of your units has been destroyed.
I see that the crossbow warriors are a bit vulnerable, so I just take my Black Knights and I just get a great full frontal charge on them. You just see how quickly and how easily they get tossed around and are just taking good damage despite their heavy armor. You know, but if my opponent had committed and brought more of these guys, it would have been a much different story for me, gameplay-wise. Invocation coming down on the Black Knights, and Van Hell's Dance Macabre coming in. You can see with that, just that one spell, these Jade Lancers down to half health already, and really getting picked through by these anti-large, dedicated anti-cavalry units. Really great time for these guys. Like I said, this is what they want to be fighting. They don't really want to be fighting stuff like warbears and stuff in a vacuum, but these guys are probably at their best in this matchup, probably. And maybe against the Empire and stuff like that, because they're able to just charge in here against these cavalry units that are not good at dealing with them at all. I'm going to jump around here in the back. I'm going to get a sandwich on these Jade Lancers, and dead already. I mean, just immediately crushed. And my opponent just bottled up, can't really get out of his zone.
No, the enemy has slain our Lord.
It took all game, but the Red Duke finally died off. These Iron Hail Gunners got jumped on by Fellbats. They're really tattered, really low. Another unit of Black Knights coming in. And at this point, I just had full control of the battlefield, you know. So many swarming elements that you can bring as the vampire counts, and almost all of them are able to trade cost effectively. Mortis engine running over. Oh, look at this. Oh, so sick. The Necromancer and all the Wraiths and everything. These really cool ethereal cavalry guys and some Cairn Wraiths too. Beautiful unit. Oh, just shout out to the guys who put their heart and souls into making all of these units. I mean, just look how beautiful these models are. They're just incredible. But anyways, these Jade Warriors are not where they want to be. They're just getting karate chopped in this fight here. Righteous Lances are doing good damage to these Black Knights, but with more Black Knights and now Blood Knights coming in, they don't want to be here anymore, so they're going to take off and leave these guys to their fate. Mortis engine just trotting around, doing damage. Skyjunk trying to shoot in here, focusing the Konigstein Stalkers down. does a lot of good damage to them, but, you know, these guys don't mind too much. And this is a pretty cool unit. I really like these guys. They apply poison, and they have really high armor. I did not know they had 80 armor for a skeleton warrior, which is really good. They can be really brutal to get rid of, actually. You know, like a mini Stearnsman without the regeneration, almost. Love them. They're gonna get karate chopped by the Doom Dragons, though. Oh my goodness, that wasn't my finest hour in terms of what I was going to be trying to do, but, you know, the lead was so significant at this point, I really didn't care. I just wanted to hold on to the objective long enough for me to get the win. I was really just trying to put the nail in the coffin at this point, blocking up everything my opponent has. He's trying so hard to commit to this and just chew through what's here, but just so tanky. And I bring out the Red Duke again, just to say, you know, kill me once, good for you. But as with all vampires, I rise from the shadows yet again to bring death and devastation to the forces arrayed against me. So here he is in all his glory. Sick shield. Oh my god. Just beautiful. Wonderful. This objective never got contested either. That was a bit of a misplay from my opponent, but he would have had to bring quite a bit up here, and it would have just turned into a blob up here anyways, you know? I mean, that's what vampires do so well, you know? I mean, just look at all these dead zombies. Fellbats, direwolves, everything. Just over here, just absolute mess of a fight. Those crypt ghouls died too. Something I've noticed is when you desummon units, if you desummon them versus them just completely dying on the battlefield, their corpses actually get removed off of the field as well, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But you'll notice the little animation like sparking up on random points of the battlefield if you're desummoning something where most of the casualties were. You can see the devastation though. I mean, just all these corpses in the opponent's backfield, and that's what vampire counts do so well. Cathay has tools to deal with vampire counts. They're probably one of the better mortal factions who can deal with vampires, but you have to go with mass crossbowmen, and you have to be dedicated to defending them and keeping harmony up the whole time, or you're going to get swamped and just karate chopped by overpowered vampire counts. But that's going to be the end for this one. I'll show you the damage values, and I'll talk about what I guess needs to change for vampires. The first thing that needs to happen, necromancers don't need Forbidden Rod. That's ridiculous. Give them a Power Stone or something. You know, even then, that's not necessarily the best idea, because vampire counts really don't need extra Winds of Magic. They are already one of the best summoning factions and spellcasters, so don't give them an inch. They really don't need it. They'd be fine without it, honestly. They'd still be one of the most powerful factions in the game. Crumbling needs to be reworked. Crumbling needs to be more of a punishment for undead. They've got low leadership for a reason, you know? If they get into a really ugly, bad fight, they need to take more damage from crumbling. And I also think that if they're crumbling, they don't need to provide capture weight, because they do right now, and that's just absurdly broken when fighting a mortal faction, because if these Cathay guys rout, they're not providing any benefit, you know? And I know crumbling isn't technically the equivalent to routing, but regardless, it needs to be more punishment, because these units can just heal through all of that crumbling damage so easily. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. Talking about stuff without showing you the values, really. 3,400 for the Red Duke, and he only got 19 kills. That's because he got 2 good isolations on the Shugengan Lord, who still got decent value, but had to be summoned in twice. Definitely not paying for herself. The Righteous Lances, though, despite the bad engagements that they ended up in, these guys paid for themselves really well, and a lot of it was on the Red Duke, who took a lot of damage from them. But regardless, I think these guys could be really good at just about every matchup. They're probably an auto pick for Grand Cathay. Skyjunk did get good value, but again, summoned in twice, not particularly good. And you can see just how many casualties were inflicted by my opponent with all of his units, and it just doesn't matter, you know? I mean, all of these guys, you know, the value is very deceptive, because a lot of these units, especially these Jade Lancers, got summoned in multiple times. I think all of these guys got summoned in 3 times at least. But yeah, Sternsman here, good value. It doesn't look, it's not that high, but they paid for themselves and they held almost until the end of the game, well into the point at which it was decided in my favor. Crypt Horrors didn't get great value, but they did what they needed to do in the time that they had. These Crypt Horrors, you know, 650, and they fought in that big blob in the first fight, got all their value there, and just sat on the side objective the rest of the game. Graveguard, good. Skeletons and zombies. Funnily enough, the Tithe paid for themselves. I don't really think I've ever seen that. Here you can see the power of Blood Knights. 3 chevrons on these guys. 246 kills. Almost all of that on Jade Lancers. And, you know, 2,300 value. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. But you can see, even over the course of a long game, it took them a while to get their value back. And they're an expensive piece. If you want my honest opinion, you could probably drop these guys by 100 and raise the dire pack need to be a 750 gold unit. They're too powerful as they are right now. You know, ridiculous for 650. They need to be more expensive to be appropriately priced. Fellbats need to be 100 gold, more expensive also. And I think regular dire wolves can probably do with just like a 50 or 75 gold cost increase. It's really just the cheap swarming elements that are overpowered, and the Crypt Horrors probably need to be like 950 or 1,000. But Graveguard are pretty appropriately priced, all things considered. It's the healing and the magic that makes them so dangerous, so they don't really need to be adjusted too much. Zombies are fine, they stink. They don't really matter all that much other than to be meat shields, and they're really great at it. So you really just play around them. They can be played around pretty easily. They don't provide good capture weight as far as I know and can tell. And they get karate chopped by anything that's as much as a stiff breeze. Skeleton Warriors are reasonably priced. They stink also. But, you know, like I said, it's just Fellbats and the Dire Wolves that are the big problem. Blood Knights, I think, could do with a price decrease so that you see them more often. They are really strong, and they could probably use some fiddling around if you drop the price. But, you know, you want to encourage diverse play styles, and Domination mode, by itself as a mode, has done a great job of that, you know. You can see more diverse play styles in Domination than you ever did in land battles, in my opinion. So yeah, I love that. Love the game mode. Love the most recent changes that they made, which made it a little bit more like land battles in that you want to focus on trading. It's favored a lot of the shooting factions, which is why Cathay is suddenly good now, whereas before they were just absolutely dreadful because they could not capture objectives and stay on them long enough to get the wins. But yeah, anyways, that's going to be the end of this one. Lots of talking, good bit of rambling, but, you know, hope you enjoyed it. And have a good one. Peace.